It's like the idea that if you don't rewind time and just leave her in the pool, that you could like electrocute her, and it'd be funny if she never shows up in episode 5, so you could just assume you killed
Jesus
her up.
Christ.
Hey guys, and welcome back for another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm Jack. I'm here with Liam and Anya.
Bonjour.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about Life is Strange episode 4, Dark Room. I nearly said episode wrong then. That's a great start.
Episode.
Episode. Okay, so obviously at the back end of episode 3, we know that Max has altered the timeline. So we start this episode in what I've got to say is absolutely beautiful scenery, apart from the dead whales that are up on the beach, like the nice colours and stuff. But Max and Chloe, they're sort of taking a little walk along the coastline, and this is an opportunity, of course. Chloe's in the chair, and it's an opportunity for her to talk about her accident and how her life has been. And I mean, there's not a lot that I want to necessarily say here, guys, but is there anything that you wanted to talk about in this particular scene?
For me, just how interesting it is to see Chloe when she doesn't have William's death making her go punk. She's kind of like, I wouldn't say like more vanilla, but her fashion's different. She's obviously, less sort of, what's the word, like angry and bitter. She's just more of a normal human being. And yeah, just really interesting just to see this whole interaction. And you can tell on Max's face as well that there's even more guilt. Like Max just carries guilt throughout the whole episode, and like this is just a whole new level to that.
Yeah, I like seeing a soft Chloe, and especially because like in this timeline she never meets Rachel, and I remember like she was like a big influence on how Chloe kind of turned into the person that she was when Max was gone. So without all of that trauma and Rachel influence, it's interesting to see her, like this side of her.
I think as well, I said it in the last episode, but I just want to touch on it again. I just think it's so brutal that this family is so cursed that if you're getting one tragedy and you're altering it, they're just getting another one. And it's not affected William, but it's affected Chloe this time. And I just think it speaks volumes about the whole end game of this and like how the universe has plans.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think obviously a lot of the opening to episode 4, it is very cinematic, cutscene heavy. But I've got to say, from what I've experienced in my gameplay so far, I'd say that episode 4 is my favourite. It is the longest. There is an argument that it could be that it gets cut down. I think there's so much good story stuff going on here because you're starting to see the weight on Max's shoulders with like some of the decisions that she's made and this power that she has. It's really altering people's lives and not necessarily for the better, and I just thought that they handled that really well. Of course, they then move on. They go back to Chloe's house, and obviously she's not got a lot of strength. She's sat in bed, and you can do a couple of things. You get some water and watch a movie with her. There's one thing that I'm gonna dog on Chloe a little bit here. She says about ever thought about doing a podcast, and Chloe doesn't take to that very nicely. So fuck you, Chloe.
I noticed that as well, yeah.
Personal attack.
Yeah. But,
we've defended her the whole time, but you know what? Chloe can go fuck herself now.
Yeah, we needed to balance it up a little bit. We don't want to be too pro Chloe. But yeah, of course, yeah, there's again some really hard hitting scenes here. Max is seeing sort of like the outcomes of like what her decisions have been. You can also go to speak to William, and again, obviously, this is what I think so genius in this episode. You obviously see the hardships that Chloe's going through, then you see William, and obviously he's going through hardships because of Chloe, but you see him alive and well. It really puts Max in the enviable position of you're choosing between your best friend and your best friend's dad, and it's very impossible. It's not a win-win situation. And I think as well, you get to go up and you get to see that Chloe's bedroom is so empty, which for me was like just so hard hitting, considering like in the normal timeline. It's so busy and full of life, and it's like stuff everywhere. But yeah, guys, just like, I'll start with you, Anya. Maybe like, what were your sort of thoughts about this whole change, and how Max and Chloe's relationship is now, and obviously with William alive, wax lyrical.
Yeah, it's definitely a little tough to go through. Like, I didn't expect that we would stay here very long, because obviously, like, this isn't the way things are supposed to be. And while it is nice to see, like, Chloe's dad, like, alive, and he's so, like, just a sweet guy, like, I don't know, we can't leave Chloe like this, and we have shit to do in the other present day timeline. So, like, I was just kind of sitting here like, man, this is just to get some feels out of me, isn't it? But I don't know, it's, like I said, I like seeing the soft Chloe, and it's interesting to see, like, how, like, their dynamic and their friendship is still kind of like, oh yeah, I haven't seen you in a while, but, like, it can still just go right back to how it used to be, even with circumstances being completely different.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on things like talking to William, because although it's lovely to see him, it's so brutal and horrible seeing him speak in the background like, oh, kill me now, because his family have like been inundated with bills to keep Chloe, going, basically. You look at the massive setup she's got going, like, she's got loads of high-tech stuff, but she's obviously very heavy maintenance, and it's taking its toll on the family, and it's just really dark to see. And I'm glad as well that you mentioned Chloe's room. If I had to pinpoint the most iconic location in Life is Strange history to me, I would say it's Chloe's room. It's a reoccurring thing that, builds and develops in all the different timelines. You see it get punked out over time. It's got so much character. I absolutely love Chloe's room. It's just, such a throwback. And then to see this room just, not graffitied, no character, crutches in the corner, because they think she might walk again. It's really brutal just seeing this room as a skeleton of what it's supposed to be, and it weirdly affected me in some ways.
But obviously we fast forward, and we can give her some morphine and the photo album, and you're sort of like reminiscing about like certain memories and stuff, which is really cool. We do ultimately come to this choice where, and again it covers a very very sort of adult, very mature, very sensitive theme. This whole thing about euthanasia, and Chloe essentially asks you like whether you'd is it like switch off the machine or like inject her with something, and it gives you this choice. I think you either accept, you decline, or you don't know, I remember rightly. So I'll start with you this time, Liam. What did you do?
You know what? In my blind playthrough, I can't remember what I did. I think I might have actually not had the balls to do it, and I think I might have said no. This time round, I knew the choice was coming, and I was just not wanting it to come. I was like, this is such a horrible decision to make. I don't think it's my place to do so. So I hit I don't know, and then it just has further dialogue where Chloe just says, look, this is what I want, and it almost eases you into picking yes. So I eventually picked yes. Obviously, I had the knowledge that we'd be out of this timeline pretty swiftly anyway. But, she mentioned she had a great last day. She got to reconnect with her friend, but she feels bad putting her family for, everything. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to be here. And as dark as it is, I wanted to respect that wish, Jack.
Same. Like, I went right out into accepting her request, because, like, there's so many instances already where she's just dying over and over, and this is like the one time where she actually gets to make that call for herself. And I was like, okay, if this is what you want, we're not supposed to be in this timeline anyways. And I can tell that it's like hard on you, like hard on your family. You had a great day with me. It's fine. So I just kind of went along with it, because it hurts a lot to like have to choose that. But it is what she wants, and I don't know. We were gonna get out of there, pretty swiftly, like Liam said. So,
you know what? In hindsight, I would have cranked the IV up to 11 the moment she shot on podcasts. But I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Honestly, I couldn't put it better myself, guys. I did the exact same thing. I think honestly, what you said there about how this is the one time that she gets to make the call. I think that's absolutely right, and I think that was what was a lot behind my thinking. But of course, we then, a moment where she looks into a photo, and Max realises, you know what, we need to go back and put things the way they were. And then, of course, we do go back in time. We then see William ultimately leave the house, and obviously then you then see the photographs come up, and everything is starting to be undone from what Max did before. Which I think, I don't know, I think I've mentioned this the last one. I think that was just such a nice way, rather than having to give like cut scenes to explain that. And I think the fact that, you know, the photographs ties in with the game, and like just the way like it sort of melts away in this red, I think it was just visually, I think it was a really clever way of demonstrating like what is going on with the plot. But then of course we then find ourselves back in Chloe's bedroom, and Max is very relieved to see her. And I think, isn't it this point, I think I've got written down here that we then find out David and Joyce have split up. I don't know if this is scripted or whether this is because of like some earlier choice. Do either of you know?
I always thought it was because like if like Max, Chloe, and Joyce all kind of gang up on him, then he's kicked out of the house. So like for my scene, like he was just heading out to a hotel because he's been kicked out. I don't know if what he does otherwise, but
Yeah, literally the same as me. And you know what? I actually don't know what happens if you side with David, and I imagine you probably avoid this whole thing. And you know, that'd be really interesting to look back at.
Yeah, I think especially because where like his character goes later on, you can almost like you can feel a bit bad for David. Not obviously that it justifies his previous actions or anything like that, but all the same, like you think, oh wow, like if that is as a result of our choice, then you know it's big implications for Chloe and her family essentially. But of course, although obviously David has been kicked out, at that time we don't know of what his later relevance in the plot will be, but we then go into the garage. It still looks very shady on his end. We see lots of photos, some coordinates with certain characters as well, and you know, you think that this guy's meant to be the security, and he seems to be taking photos of like Nathan beating up Warren. You're thinking like, what, you're not stepping in here, you're just taking photos. Like it does seem really dodgy on his end. And we get to do a few other little things here. So yeah, I'll throw the mic over to you, mate. Is there anything you wanted to add on this particular garage scene?
Yeah, I just really like the way that you can look around for a code to break into like the locker. I didn't know you could do this. I just found a crowbar and like brute force my way in. Apparently that's an option. Optional photo where you can take one of the bird's nests. And I have to admit here that what you're supposed to do is take the photo of the bird's nest, the eggs, and then put the plank back. I didn't, and as a result of that, Joyce was giving me shit throughout the whole episode, texting me like, there's dead birds, there's like these broken eggs in the garage.
oh my god.
And I felt terrible the whole episode. I was just there like, oh no, I've killed a load of birds. You know, I've spent ages saving this blue bird every like day pretty much, and now I've like killed these like little, this nest. But yeah, just to reiterate on the whole scene here, now that we're back in the other timeline, I can't express enough how I was on cloud 9, because I obviously on my blind playthrough, I didn't know that we'd be back in the normal timeline. I was really worried I screwed it completely. So I just have to reiterate how relieving it is to see Chloe's old room and Chloe with blue hair and tats. Like, honestly, I was on cloud 9 at this point.
I did kind of feel bad for him when I was talking to him, and he was all like, you tore my family apart, Max, hope you're happy. And she's like, I didn't mean to. But like, okay. So it's like, I did kind of feel a little bad for him, but then I like go through all his stuff. I'm just like, man, I know you're not the big bad, but
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, to come back to what you're saying about that whole bird's nest thing, mate, I've had this idea that Telltale and Life is Strange, in terms of like the sophistication of the choices, were like very similar. I think for me personally, having gone back through this game now, I'd say that Life is Strange is a level above Telltale. Just for like little instances like this, because there are other examples that you can get. Like I know you mentioned in the last episode about how you can alter the tracks a couple of different ways, and that if you do it a certain way, there's a fisherman that gets angry. Obviously there's this one here, you get text messages from Joyce. I think there are other examples that I can't remember them right now, but I will do in a later episode or something. But there are like little instances like where your choices do matter, and they may be hidden quite well via, you know, text messages or something like that, but nonetheless, like the game developers took the time out to put it in. I just like, think that's like just really fantastic. Now, this is where we deviate paths, I believe, because obviously in my playthrough, Kate died, but in both of your playthroughs, she would be in hospital, right? So I literally have no idea what goes on here. So did one of you want to take the lead and just go through what happens in this scene with Kate?
Liam, you probably remember more than me about what happens. I know it's just like a cute little catch up, and they like talk about like children's book. Like Kate wants to write one, and she wants Max to do the photos for it or something. I don't remember all the details though.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't add too much to the story. It's just a nice, like, you know, I guess reward for those who did save Kate. It's lovely to see them hug. It's just nice that, you know, she's alive and well. Yeah, I get mixed feelings about sort of seeing Courtney and Victoria's, you know, get well soon messages and, oh, we can't wait to have you back. It, you know, almost feels very two-faced. So, like, I was in two minds about that one. One thing I also just want to mention about the scene as well, though, is that Chloe, I know, you know, ever since we've been releasing these Life is Strange videos, we've got very mixed receptions on Chloe. Some of you love her, some of you hate her. But one thing you can't take away from her is that she's so apologetic. She's there in the hospital waiting room, giving you guys a moment. And she's there, and she's super guilty about how she acted in the cafe, which is just a neat little story arc. She says, I was so wrong to do that, to guilt trip you to not taking the call. I'm glad you were there for her. So it's just nice to see that Chloe, although she can be stubborn and arrogant and impatient, you know, she's, you know, human. She's got layers of understanding, and it's nice to see her being apologetic in this scene.
Yeah, I had a note about that because I know I brought it up. Like that was one of the things that I didn't like about her character, like in that moment. So it's nice that she can own up to it, and also like it highlights too that you never really know what somebody else is going through, because Chloe didn't know how intense like Kate was really having it. So it's nice to accept your faults and be like, I'll do better next time, because not a lot of people like to do that.
I mean, that's it. She's a very three-dimensional character, isn't she, Chloe? Like, I can see why she perhaps divides people, but I think that's literally what makes her so interesting. It creates discussion. I think that there's good things, there's bad things. So yeah, I mean, I think moving on from here, we rock up back to Blackwell. I think we have a bit of a chit chat with Jefferson outside. But we are ultimately going there because we're convinced at this point Nathan is the big bad. He's the one that's that we've got to talk to or like find evidence for. So we're heading to his room to grab his phone, and after a little while we find that his phone is on taped to the back of his sofa, and we then come to our second choice where Warren he comes to the rescue yet again. Doesn't Nathan pull out a gun or something like that, and then just Warren starts to get revenge for last time. He starts handing his ass to Nathan. But did you guys intervene? Did you stop Warren from beating up Nathan, or did you just let the guy just absolutely pound him?
No, yeah, I stayed out of it. I was like, you know what? For what I know in this moment, he probably deserves it, and he did beat up Warren in like the first episode or whatever, so this is just payback. But I think the best part about it is just letting Warren beat the shit out of Nathan with like his little meme shirt that he's got on. It's just so ridiculous.
Yeah, for me, I intervened actually. I was like, you know, this man's unhinged, and I know he's pretty much a villain at this point, but I just was like, you know, we've just gone into his bedroom where we've seen all the dark movies. We've learned that, you know, he's actually a photographer himself now, which we never learned before, and he's got this really dark style. And seeing his room was really interesting. It opens up this whole side to Nathan that we never really saw before. And I think that kind of bled into my choice, because I was like, yeah, I'm not angering this man even more. I kind of want to keep him at arm's length here.
I think that was my logic too. I intervened, and I'm looking at the choice on my phone now. It is literally 50-50. So I don't think I've come across a choice so far on this game that's so evenly split. But yeah, I stopped Warren. I guess my logic was as well, yeah. You know, although like as Max, you're not really interested in Warren, at the same time he has been like guardian angel in some ways. He seems to be there to defend you, and you necessarily want him to fall victim to Nathan going forward in this game. I was like, you know what, let's just cut this issue at hand and just, you know, get Warren away from the action. We then head to Frank's RV. Some questions. I know that this bit took it took me a couple of goes actually, because when you first play it, the dog comes running out and isn't it like it attacks Chloe or something like that? You ultimately have to replay it. But it's actually really interesting looking at some of the choices here where it says that Chloe killed Frank, Chloe wounded Frank, or no one got hurt. Of course, all of this being as a result of a discussion that, you know, she still doesn't have the money. They're asking for Frank's help, even though like it's quite a hostile relationship. But throw it over to you, Liam. So what of the three choices did you land up with?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, none of us stole from the handicap fund, right? So none of us could have paid him off and just done it the easy way. But, you know, I don't regret that decision. And it's nice that we can still get out, you know, with no blood on our hands. But yeah, I just want to say, this is probably my least favourite section of this episode. I had a torrid time with it. One thing that, you know, I want to, you know, criticise a little bit is that I think to get it perfect, you have to do sort of like 6 or 7 steps of dialogue. And if you get any wrong one, yeah, obviously, like, it breaks out into a fight. Someone can get shot, the dog can come out. And when you rewind, which is what you constantly have to keep doing, it makes you go all the way back to the start. Now, I know we have the spacebar to skip the bits you've already heard, but I just felt like it would have been nice if we could have gone back 1 or 2 choices, not to, you know, have the entire conversation. I know there's the bit where Chloe's outside and you have to kind of set her tone, be like, look, you get really erratic here, just really calm down. But yeah, like, I actually did shoot Frank here because there is a dialogue option where, you know, he can give you the book, you know, the clue you need, but he, you know, walks away into the RV with his leg bleeding out. But I was like, I'm not having that. I'm going to rewind time and do it the right way. I really enjoyed the bit of dialogue where when you kind of go along the right tracks, you've calmed him down a bit, you're speaking about dogs. I did the mistake of mentioning his dog's name, Pompidou, and then he flipped at me because he was like, the only way you'd know my dog's name is if you search through my RV. And then he
the exact same thing.
It's so funny. It's like, oh god, I should not have mentioned that. I tried to be nice with him. But yeah, like, he absolutely flipped out at me. But through a lot of trial and error, for about probably half an hour, I managed to get there where, you know, you learn that you're all on the same page, don't you? You know, you're all there to find Rachel. You are on the same team, and it's nice to see that after, if you play your cards right, I guess, this is the moment where Frank goes from creepy villain, you know, waving a gun around, to an ally, and then he actually texts you, you know, like support. And it's nice to see Frank have his little story arc here. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed that bit of the section. I just hated the whole dialogue puzzle, how to get there.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Liam stole a lot of the words that I had written down, like a lot of trial and error. But yeah, first go around, like, Chloe ended up shooting both Frank and the dog. So then I had to go back and I'm like, get rid of the gun. She's like, I really don't like that, but I trust you. And I also like that she just fucking chucks it away instead of just like giving it to Max or something. Like, as long as you don't have it, Chloe, we're fine. I'm not going to use it. I know how this goes. But yeah, I just had to keep going back just to get a nice conversation with nobody getting hurt. And definitely a couple of facepalm moments where it's just like, I shouldn't have said that. I should have thought about that more, because then Frank is very quick to pop off. But yeah, I just kept going on until it ended with a nice resolution with no injuries and no shot Pompidou, because that's no good.
Oh, interesting. So for me, I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember all of the bits of dialogue from this conversation, but I certainly know how it ended. And I think we ultimately got what we wanted. Yeah, Frank ended up wounded. I'm pretty sure he got shot in the leg. And then, like, me and Chloe just absolutely bolted it, and he was just like there on the floor. So, and I think looking at this choice here, it says that 26% of people, so like just over 1 in 4, had that choice. 64% no one got hurt, and 10% Chloe killed Frank. So not quite in the minority, but obviously, I was ballsed up somewhere. I just couldn't be asked to rewind time, because the guy, just got a bullet in the leg. We got what we wanted and was out of there. So
I wonder how that affects the rest of your game if he because obviously for myself and Anya, he would have been texting support throughout the rest of the episode. You have a nice bit of dialogue with him in episode 5. You probably didn't have that, which is interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember Frank coming up again for the rest of this game, even via text messages and stuff like that. So I'm guessing this is sort of the cut-off point for me. Maybe I'm wrong, but got to admit I did look at the text messages, but not not all the time, not religiously. So it might have popped up here and there. And I mean, we then go back to Chloe's room, and I've got to say, as much as I like playing detective, I'm guilty here of this bit taking me longer than what I thought. When you've got there's loads of clues for David, there's clues for Nathan, and then is it clues for Frank, or there's a third person anyway, and you've got to create links between all of these clues in order to progress the game. So did either of you have any comments for this particular bit? Was there any difficulty, or did you like how it went down?
Yeah, Liam doesn't like the Frank segment. I don't like this segment. It just took me a hot minute, and this was the point where I cracked, and I'm like, I need to look this up, because my tiny brain got overwhelmed by so much to look at, and I just was getting frustrated with myself. I'm like, I need to just get this over with. I don't want to be here for another 30 minutes.
I think for myself, I think when I did my blind playthrough, when I was 18, I struggled a lot with it, and I don't know if it was memory, but I was actually really impressed with myself. I thought I smashed it out of the park this time. Probably because I remembered a bunch of things. A few details I wanted to mention is I really like Frank's kind of style with his codes, where all his customers are named after dogs that fit their personality. So Chloe's a bulldog, Nathan's a Rottweiler. I thought that was a really cool detail, and it's really interesting because if you study the list, you sort of see some of the clients, and one little neat detail is that Paul Innocent Stella, one of the girls that go around Blackwell, is a secret druggie. She's one of Frank's customers, which I was really taken back by. Wow, Stella, what are you doing on this list? But yeah, no, really interesting. Obviously, we know we're looking for a barn if we've played the game before, so it was pretty easy to pick that location out. But I was really impressed. Even on my blind playthrough, one of the things I managed to clock onto as well, which doesn't buy into the big picture, because when you're trying to locate whose Nathan's vehicle is, you can learn it's the SUV with the cracked light on it. But one of the cars that David is actually tracking down is that kind of really neat silver white car. And if you look at the outro clips in episode 2, you'll know that one of them belongs to Mr. Jefferson. So it's just a nice little Easter egg that David suspects Jefferson for something before you really clock it on yourself. And I just really like that little detail, that it shows that David was actually onto some things that you weren't.
I had no idea about that. I thought that bit was very easy, the car bit with the number plate, and as you say, the ruined light. But there was other number plates and other things to suggest it was Jefferson. Because you know what, as you were talking then, I thought it was going to be something to do with Principal Wells, because I think it is in the outro of either 2 or 1. You see Principal Wells sort of leaning into a car, and it could be perfectly innocent, but equally it could be something quite shady as well. But I know, I do like that. I do like that they have that in the game, because it's almost for the very eagle-eyed, they could have picked that up. Of course, obviously we get through all that detective stuff, and we end up at the barn. Again, where we have some rewind time segments where we can climb up. We have to rewind time to hook things together to get these big doors on the barn floor open, and we enter the dark room. So obviously this is very reminiscent, or it's the exact same room that we've been seeing at the end of the episodes with all the various files. So this is like the killer's lair, so to speak. Some interesting things in here. Obviously, as Max, we find the files. We see a letter regarding Nathan's mental health. So maybe it's at this point that we start to learn that even Nathan is perhaps a pawn in this whole situation. And I mean, yeah, guys, that just, what did you think? You know, when you're in this old rickety barn and then you see that this very white, very clean, modern bunker underneath.
I don't like it one bit. It's so unsettling just to go through, especially like because it's all like the victims of all of this are just like young girls, and like that's what I am. I was even younger like when this game came out, so I'm like I hate how this is like an actual like reality, and I don't know. It's also just it's one of those like hard things to get through like in the game, like with Kate's scene or like just anything really. Like this scene is one of those hard moments that is just like a little bit too real and it's uncomfortable. But and especially when you see how many binders that there actually are, because like we've only seen like the one row that Rachel and Kate's are in, and now we just see like a whole like thing full of them. But one positive is that I do like the little bit of like humanizing to Nathan's character that it does. Like, yeah, he's a prick, but like he's clearly just being manipulated by a lot of like the older people in his life and has mental health issues. And to throw a little shout out to our beloved Until Dawn. I know like at this time, like when Until Dawn was coming out and this was out, a lot of people were just looking for like happy endings for Nathan and Josh, because they just need help, you know? They don't deserve what they've gone through, what they're going through. They just need some help.
That's actually so true. I never thought about the parallels between Nathan Prescott and Joshua Washington, but you've hit the nail on the head there. It's actually so true.
Yeah.
But yeah, like with this whole section, I really like it. Like obviously we've been going back to the same locations again and again. It's really nice that we get a new welcome one with this barn, which was just really creepy and haunting. I really liked, going down into the dark room into, where you've got to like solve the puzzle to actually reach there. Not so much like the keypad puzzle. I thought that was a bit lazy, where you just have to like hit the 3 buttons that are like, are just have like sort of thumbprints on them pretty much. But yeah, like in terms of going down the dark room, it's just really haunting to see how much money this Prescott family have, and that, Nathan's helped set up this absolute dark layer. And then obviously, yeah, like the red folders that we're seeing at the end of every outro, pretty much, we finally see them in the flesh in this episode. And this is where we learn that Victoria's next, which becomes our next step of the mission. And that is an interesting thing itself, because Victoria, who I'm not a fan of, you're like, yeah, well, I'm not a fan of her, but I don't want her to be a victim to what Rachel and Kate went through. So yeah, instantly you're going to save like the girl you loathe in your class pretty much, which I just thought was a really interesting dynamic within itself.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously they seem to find some clues when they're down there. They seem some photos, of course, when Kate has been drugged and she's in all these positions, and you're starting to wonder, like, I mean, I know you've said already, haven't you, that when this game was out that a lot of people seemed to clock on like who was behind this, but I think when I was first playing this, it really wasn't dawning on me. Like, maybe it was because I just didn't have the time between episodes to sit there and speculate, because I pretty much played it all in one go. But yeah, I do think that, the way that actually this game pans out, like who is responsible, it was certainly a surprise to me anyway. But of course we then head to the scrapyard and we make horrifying discovery in that we find Rachel Amber's body buried under the earth. I think, especially for Chloe, like a lot of her purpose, her drive has been to find out what's happened with Rachel Amber, and obviously ends like this. So I suppose we'll sort of take a moment just to like cover this bit. Like, what were your guys' thoughts? Was you shocked at the time? Did you think, oh my god, she's actually dead? Or did you think that we were somehow gonna discover Rachel Amber later in the game? Like, what was your thinking?
I was really rooting for Rachel to be alive and like reunite with Chloe and like have like the 3 girls hanging out together and everything. And this is one of those scenes too that like still is like vivid in my head, like the song, like the whole lead up to it, and like Chloe just like always was at this junkyard and had no idea that Rachel was just like there the whole time, and there's a sad reality that she's not coming back, and that we can just like find her, and like technically we do find her, but it's not in the way that I wanted, and it kind of like ups the stakes a little bit about the dark room thing, like scanning for Victoria next, and one girl is already dead because of it, and potentially two if you didn't save Kate, because the thing that kind of led to her emotional downfall was this whole thing like being drugged. So it just and it hits harder too if you liked Rachel in Before the Storm, since like as the episodes were coming out, she's like a mystery character, like how she actually is. Like we just hear offhand from people like how cool she was and everything, and then like at this time we don't know anything about her, and we never will, and it's a little bit sad.
Yeah, it's super interesting because like obviously whoever like is doing all this stuff, like that Kate is one of the victims, yet she's free to roam about in school, still attend class. So there's that massive mystery element of why isn't Rachel going through the same thing. So I almost was a little skeptical of what happened, and obviously we later learn that Nathan got sloppy and overdosed her, which is really dark within itself. But also, like, and as I've continuously mentioned, this game's heavily inspired from Twin Peaks, the 90s series, and a big theme of that is that there's a missing girl called Laura Palmer, and Rachel Amber acts as the Laura Palmer of the story. And I know in Twin Peaks, Laura Palmer, her body gets revealed, it gets washed up on a beach. So I thought they would go in a similar parallel and bracket to that. So I think deep down I knew that Rachel was dead, but there was always that little glimmer of hope where we didn't really know too much to draw conclusions. And it is a gut punch when Chloe discovers the body, the girl that she's been putting up posters for, that she's been hoping to find for 4 episodes. You have to see her go through it, and she's bawling her eyes out, and it just sucks seeing Chloe in this absolute state. It's really dark to witness. And obviously just, chef's kiss as well to the soundtrack again, because I know you're a big fan of this song as well, aren't you, Anya? But
Yeah.
Messages by, what is it? Message to Bears Mountains. Just such a good song. It backs the whole emotion of this whole thing, like driving to the scrapyard and running and digging the body up so well. And it's just such a powerful scene.
It is, like, props to, obviously echo what you just said. The music in this game, and the way they handle these heavy moments, because there are a lot of them, they each feel unique, and they don't feel like you don't really sort of tire of them. There's a lot of like heavy stuff in this game, but they manage to keep it sort of relevant and fresh so well, and I think the music goes a long way to doing that. The voice acting as well goes a long way in doing that. But obviously after a horrible discovery, you start to see a change in Chloe's mentality. She knows that Rachel's gone. She's all out. She's like laser focused on going after Nathan. I think there's a point where you turn up at Blackwell, and is it that there's something funny going on in the sky. She's just like, fuck it, the world's coming to an end, but she still has to settle a score with Nathan, and we ultimately end up at the Vortex party. We see Warren outside. It's all about finding Nathan. Now, I don't know about you guys, it actually took me a little while to get round into the VIP bit. I don't know if it was like a lot easier for you, but I know in my gameplay I went around talking to pretty much everyone because I was hoping that they would say something and that I could rewind time and manipulate the girl at the desk. It just never happened, and I think in the end I had to like walk around the other side of the room, the edge, and then something fell in the water, and then you had to rewind time to once you walked past it, and then you could slip in that way. So was it the same for you, or was there sort of an alternative that I don't know about? We'll start with you, Liam.
Yeah, I mean, so something I don't think we mentioned in the last episode is that when you're in the swimming pool with Chloe in episode 3, you can actually alter the Vortex Club list, and I completely I can't say that word. I completely adjusted it. I will go for that one. Where I removed names and I put my own one on there, and I went to the lady, the gatekeeper, and I was like, I'm on the list, and she didn't believe me, so I had to get Courtney, and then she was like, no, it's not even my handwriting, what the fuck. So it's like a thing that I thought I would get straight through, but it completely flopped, and it was really hilarious to see. I think, maybe you can do if you speak to Courtney in one of the episodes, but I forgot to do that, so I didn't have any rapport with her, so she was like, you're not allowed in. So yeah, I did the good classic way of just, going around the other side and chucking the speaker, completely ruining everyone's party and the music. And yeah, I just went in the old-fashioned way, same as you, Jack.
Yeah, I never did anything with the list or spoke to Courtney or anything, so I had to go by, electrocute everybody in the pool, and then rewind until I was on the other side.
Sweet. So obviously we then essentially come up to our next choice in this episode when we speak to Victoria, and of course we have the opportunity to warn her about the whole situation, how like she may be the next victim. The 3 choices being here that it's Victoria, she believed your warning, you didn't believe your warning, or you didn't warn her at all. So I'll start with you, Anya. What one did you get here?
She ended up believing me, because I remember I was trying to be as nice as possible, even if she wasn't nice to me. And like I said, I think I mentioned in the first episode, I lived vicariously through somebody else's playthrough where they just were always letting her have it. So they were just digging into hers to the fact where she didn't believe it. And I'm like, okay, good thing I didn't do that, even if I really wanted to. Because even if she is a bitch, her life is potentially in danger, and nobody should have to go through that. So it was good that I got her to believe me.
Yeah, no, literally, same as me. I took the high road with her a lot, and then it paid off. So, she believed me, which is really nice. One thing I like about this whole Vortex party, though, is that we'll speak to a lot of the recurring characters around Blackwell, and a lot of it is just nothing dialogue. But it's nice that you just get to conclude some story arcs, catch up with people that you won't get to speak to again. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this whole section. Even the sound, the Breton. Get well, or whatever the song's called. I'm not even going to name it. I can't remember it. But yeah, the song. It's just nice to get a different song in there. I just really liked it. Obviously, we saw the swimming pool in the last episode, but it was very isolating and just lonely. But this time it's just really cool just to see the lights and a party atmosphere. Obviously we know Life is Strange 2. We never got to go to that party in episode 1, but it's nice that we got to go to this Vortex party in Life is Strange season 1 anyway.
The party is a vibe. I would want to show up just to people watch all the funny dance moves and everyone just casually hanging out in the bathroom.
Seeing Alyssa fall into the pool again.
Yeah, and the 2 guys are just lazily tapping each other with those pool noodles even after.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I've saved Alyssa in every other episode apart from that one. I was like, no, girl, you're too clumsy. I'm not going back in time just to stop that. I was like, okay.
But I hate, if you talk to her, she's like, guess I can't always count on you to warn me when stuff is happening or whatever. I'm just like, it's not my responsibility if you're clumsy.
It's the idea that if you don't rewind time and just leave her in the pool, that you could electrocute her, and it'd be funny if she never shows up in episode 5, so you could just assume you killed her up.
Oh dear. So obviously, so going back to the Victoria choice, unsurprisingly, she didn't believe me. Probably something to do with me coating her in paint earlier on in the game, and just me being sort of hostile here and there with her. So that's it was a very long conversation, and to get that conclusion, it's sort of oh, no, really? After all that, you don't believe me? Because I think in that instance, I was playing nice to an extent because I knew the stakes. And she was just constantly digging me out for stuff that I'd done previously. So I don't know if it's just a lose-lose situation there. But yeah, obviously we then link up with Chloe again. But we do hear Jefferson who's there, which I don't know, for some reason I remember when I first played this, I was like, what the hell was he doing here? It was a bit odd. Of course, you then see him do the speech because he's giving out the award for the Everyday Heroes contest, and Victoria won. And then she did this ultimate fake speech that I was just sat there like thinking, oh, like, shut up. Yeah, honestly, she just going on and on and on. The thing that made me laugh is that at the end of this speech, like, you can just hear someone in the background.
Yeah.
You suck, Victoria. I just love that. Like, there's someone in there that's just like not pro Victoria. That's like wanting to dig her out. I just love that.
I love just the little comments like, come on, as Jefferson is like trying to like open the letter to like reveal the winner.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's really good stuff. Then obviously we head back to the scrapyard again. I think, is it Chloe gets a text message from Nathan to say, you know, to meet at the scrapyard. So they go there, and we get our ending of the game, and we get the big reveal as to who was the big bad behind all of these events, that being Mr. Jefferson. So I suppose the first question I'll ask you both is, A, I mean, you know, did you expect it to be Jefferson when you first played? And B, like, what was your just overall thoughts of this whole episode, and like where you thought the plot was going to go from here?
Yeah, so like, I knew it was him because you know, there was a lot of fan theories. Like I said, I had to wait episodically, so I spent months, you know, like looking at, you know, theory videos, and a lot of them really heavily pointed to Jefferson because, you know, the nice teacher, there had to be something off about him. And at the end of the day, the whole thing's to do with photography. Even when you're down in that dark room, you're like, I don't think Nathan is fully responsible here. He's clearly a pawn. I really like the dynamic because obviously Nathan, like, his dad's a bit of a job's worth, like, you know, thinking about the Prescott name. So clearly, like, Nathan never had that father figure, and then he kind of got that from Nathan, who pretty much used him. So yeah, I thought it was him. But yeah, still really impactful ending though. It's really dark to see his like evil face looming over you after he shot Chloe, and then you can't rewind because, you know, you've been drugged, Travis style in the quarry. And one thing I want to mention is that there were a lot of memes going around at this time where you had Jefferson looking down at Max pissed off, and the like caption would say, all you had to do was submit your Everyday Heroes contest. It's just like he's giving Max shit for like the whole game, and then like that's just what he wanted him to do. Like, you should have submitted your photo and this wouldn't have happened. But yeah, no, still really impactful. You know, and it's just, each kind of cliffhanger is almost like a really dark one in Life is Strange. It's rare you'll get like a happy cliffhanger. But yeah, like it made it killer to wait 3 more months for episode 5 for me.
Yeah, because I was also doing episodically, and this whole episode in itself was just like hit after hit after hit. So like, I never knew when it was going to end, and I didn't know that the episode was going to end like this. And Jefferson was admittedly a bit of a twist to me, because in the game itself, he's not really like on my radar, but like the people who are is like, I'm like, it's too obvious if it's like David or just Nathan. So like I did like read a bunch of theories, and I did come across some of them, but even like when playing, I just forgot about it just because it's so like, you really have to like look into the details and be like, oh yeah, like this nice guy teacher, like there's no way that he's completely a nice guy. But yeah, definitely another big hit at the end.
I think as well, like, if you really study into, like, if you try and suspect Jefferson, you look into all his dialogue, and the first thing he literally says to you in class is like, I could picture any one of you in a dark corner. And if you really focus in on that, you're like, oh, well, it's him. It's like, you know, it's like, if you really study hard and like look into Jefferson, you know, you see all the signs and you know he's bad news.
Yeah, I guess like once you know, when you go back, you're like, oh, I guess it was obvious. But like playing through it, like just one episode at a time, months at a time, it just kind of slipped my mind sometimes.
That's it, yeah. It does a really good job of keeping it subtle, in my opinion. You know, really well written.
It's true, there's other ones as well, aren't there? Like when he says about taking the shot, I suppose you could look at that 2 ways, whether it's, you know, the firing of the gun, or whether it's sort of like, you know, the drugs or something like that, obviously with the needle. So it was cleverly done. I got to admit, obviously, like I said already, I wasn't playing this episodically, so I was surprised that it was Jefferson. But then, looking back, you do sort of think there's those moments when you're in Principal Wells's office, after like the Kate incident, and you sort of thinking, what's Jefferson doing in there? What's that some random photography teacher doing in there? And he's a character that just randomly keeps popping up. But I think because you think it's to do with this Everyday Heroes contest, you're not really like focusing on him. I think honestly, I think it's the beauty of having such a long gap, but it's also the curse. I mean, obviously there's going to be another video out by now where my thoughts on sort of like gap between episode releases. Like I think there is an art in that, to get the right balance between suspense, etc. But nonetheless, it was a great ending. I think it sets up episode 5 brilliantly. And I think that's the perfect place to wrap up. So is there anything else you guys wanted to add before we finish?
Just that podcasts are awesome, and Chloe can die for saying what she said.
True.
Yeah,
True.
She may have just sealed her fate for when we play episode 5.
Yeah.
Gonna save Arcadia Bay.
I just want to say Dana is really cute, because when we talk to her like in the little VIP room, she's just like, "Yay, Max, you showed up," and like she acknowledges that Nathan just like needs help. So she's a good person. I like Dana. Shout out to the side characters that don't do a whole lot but are still cute.
Yeah, Dana's like my favourite side character out of all the Blackwell students. She's just such an epic character.
There we go, finishing on some Dana love. So yeah, obviously that was the episode 4 analysis of Life is Strange, guys. Give us your choices in the comments. Give us your thoughts. Is there anything you disagree with, agree with what we've said? And we will see you next time.
Bye guys, see you soon.
Bye.